What's going on, everybody? It's Murk here, and today I'm bringing you NPL Season 6 Week 5. Yeah, Week 5, and this is going to be against Sebastian, aka Top Tier Boy, coach of the Florida Feraligatrs. So, there's no team builder this week. There's two reasons for that. One, it's late, and I want to get this up quickly, and two, Sebastian is a very likely future playoff opponent, so I really don't want to leak too much info about my team. So that's a cool thing, so I'm just going to briefly talk about my team, not talk about the things that didn't really get used too much in this battle, and I guess I should mention what his team is. So his team, if I can remember off the top of my head, is Tapu Fini, Mega Scizor, Tyranitar, Amoonguss, Slowbro, Raikou, Volcarona, Gliscor, Zygarde 10%. I think I already mentioned the T-Tars. I think I mentioned everything on the screen, and then Lycanroc, Sun, Form, and Azelf. Yeah, so he had a really threatening team. He had the really fat regen core, and he has some very spooky offense. The Zygarde dog's pretty scary. T-Tar is always a threat, and then mons like Volcarona and Raikou are actually enormous threats to my team, and then Tapu Fini's really annoying. So he ended up bringing Zygarde, the dog, T-Tar, Gliscor, Raikou, Volk, and Tapu Fini. This was really the six that I wanted to see the least. I knew Volk was an enormous threat to my team, and I was just kind of hoping that he didn't want to deal with Stealth Rocks, and he knew I'd over-prep for it or something, but he brought it, so I do have ways to deal with it. But it's still a enormous threat just because this dual stab completely fucks me up, and then it gets Giga Drain, so it can take on Suicune. Especially since with Misty terrain, I can't rest with my Suicune, so I can't really heal up against it, and as you'll see, that's going to be kind of an issue in this game. So my six are Torkoal, Roserade, Jirachi, Terrakion, Suicune, and Crook. I'm bringing a little bit of heat this week. I'm bringing an offensive Torkoal because his team really didn't have anything to switch into it. 2-hit KOs his whole roster, including T-Tar, because I got the nice tech. If he's unnerved, then I can freely spam Solar Beam against his team and Fire Blast because it's unresisted, and his best switch into that is like defensive Raikou or fat like AV Zygarde. This thing's really hard. It just puts a stop to all of his bulky things. And I did have a rock move to hit the Volcarona so I couldn't get set up against, and I kind of figured he might prep a little more for Torkoal after he got tossed by Turtonator last week. So it definitely shows he didn't bring like the fat regen core, which I definitely thought he could have brought. Torkoal would have just dismantled that and would have put me in a nice spot, but he still doesn't have really a switch into it, which is cool. He can't, there are ways that he can play around it, but it pressures his team. Then I've got Roserade, and I can reveal this whole set because I'm actually trading Roserade away after this week. Growth, Spikes, Giga Drain, and HP Fire. Growth was there to take advantage of the sun and basically give me a nasty plot because his team does not appreciate Roserade at all. If he brought that fat core of Slowbro Amoonguss once again, then Roserade was just another mon that dismantled it because the goal of this team was to sweep through late with my Terrakion, but first I need to talk about Rachi. Rachi is just fast with rocks and U-turn and pivoty stuff. It's got Fire Punch for the Scizor, which he didn't bring Scizor, which is good because it's an annoying mon, but I also have like half my team carrying fire coverage for it, so it's also a little unfortunate, but that's my rocker. It's pretty nice to check the Tapu Fini since I can just like Iron Head it. And it's just cool for some stuff, like, it's vulnerable to Volcarona, but I can U-turn around on it, and just getting rocks is nice, especially since I didn't want to put rocks on my other two mons. Next, I've got Scarf Tarak. Scarf Tarak's the win condition this week, because if I can get rid of the Gliscor and weaken his Tapu Fini and, like, have rocks on the field, then close combat just sweeps, and if I do some other stuff, then Scarf Stone Edge can just sweep, so that's really cool. I'm running two rock moves this week so that I could make sure I could, most of the time, revenge kill his Volcarona because I didn't really want to fuck around with missing a Stone Edge and then losing to that thing because it's a big threat. But yeah, really big threat to his team. I'm just running Stab this week because I don't really need anything else. I guess EQ for the Raikou would have been nice, but close combat still does a shit ton, and he has a lot of ground resists on his team and a lot of things that take advantage of ground. Next, Suicune's mixed defensive, just Roar Rest Talk, which is going to be hampered by the fact that Misty terrain does does prevent me from going for rest, and I didn't really think about that enough in team building because I also brought a rest crocodile, and this is a pretty heat set. It's pretty especially defensive with a little bit of other flavor in there. It's bulk up with Rest Talk and Power Trip. Power Trip is the new move introduced in Gen 7. It's basically like a physical dark type stored power, so I thought that'd be pretty cool since his only real good resist to dark was the Tapu Fini, and I could set up on a lot of his teams since I was especially defensive, and I can even chew a hit from the Volcarona, which is pretty wild. So I knew that if I could weaken the Fini and possibly get rid of the Volcarona, then that thing just kind of clean sweeps. And also it can check the Zygarde because it really doesn't take a ton from Banded, Thousand Arrows, or EQ or anything like that. So that's the team. Looking at the matchup, I know I need to keep hazards on the field as much as I can to pressure that Volcarona since it's the biggest threat to my team. Torkoal is looking pretty nice, depending on what his T-Tar set is. It could be nicer, it could be less nice, yeah. But Torkoal does really threaten his Tapu Fini, which a lot of my team can't really do. I can pick off a Volk with the Rock Slide, so he can't set up against me, which is cool. Giving him Sun's kind of bad, but at the same time, nothing on my team's really taking the +1 fire move anyways, and the things that resist it are going to get Giga Drain anyways, so I didn't really think that it was that big of a deal, and Torkoal is just a big threat to his team. So I knew that, what was I thinking? I had an idea for what I wanted to lead. I think it was something like he was going to want to lead off with something that didn't allow Terrakion to fire off a hit turn 1. So I wanted to go, and so that made me think that he was probably going to lead with Gliscor or with his Tapu Fini. And I wanted to get my rocks up early on, so I was just going to lead off with my Jirachi. And that's what I'm going to do. Is he does lead off with the T-Tar, but I don't really need Jirachi for anything in particular this game, so I'm pretty not afraid to get my rocks up. And he did show a nerve, which is pretty good. So I'm going to get my rocks as he just goes out into his Volcarona, which is scary. I know because he did bring Volcarona that he's going to have defog on his Fini, because there's no reason that he would not, because he knows that I don't run defog. He should know that I don't run hazard removal very much, and Volcarona is easily the biggest threat to my team. So I'm going to get the rocks up, and this is kind of bad. What I'm going to do is just go hard into Tarak, because in my mind he goes for the Quiver Dance or he goes for the fire move right here. If he went for like the Will-O-Wisp or the Bloom Doom, then I would have been kind of fucked, but I was going to take that risk. He does reveal Sub though, which is interesting because that does mean that he is missing coverage, so he's not going to be able to hit something on my team, which is a little wild. And I'm going to go for the Rock Slide to break this up, as he does show that he has Giga Drain, so he's either missing Fire Stab or Bug Stab. If he's missing Bug Stab, then, like, he can't touch my Mega Latios, which I have on my team. Well, not this week. And if he doesn't have Fire Stab, then Roserade can kind of chip away at it, and Jirachi can like take a hit and T-Wave it or something like that, so that would have been interesting. But I'm going to go hard into my Suicune now, knowing that the Gliscor is going to come in, or that, or something like an aggressive switch into Zygarde, and I'm just going to go hard into my Roserade here, because I know that the Tapu Fini is going to be coming out, because it's a really hard counter to my Suicune. So this is nice. I can get up a Spike right here because he doesn't have good switch into it, and he doesn't know what my coverage is. He is going to go hard into his Gliscor, and it shows that he's poison, or he's not poison heal, so that was a mistake on his part. I offered to restart and just go through the turn so he could have poison heal, but he was like, nah, he didn't trust me to like not change HP fire on like all of my mons, which, you know, I can respect since he doesn't know me all that well. I wouldn't have done it, but like it would have been bad for him if I did do that, even though it would have made me scum of the earth, and I probably would have gotten hacked out because karma. But this puts me in a nice spot, because now that I have rocks and spikes up, he can't go into his Tapu Fini because it's just going to die to a hit from my Roserade, and it also really puts his Volcarona at a disadvantage because it's taking like well over half from the hazards. So I can just go for the Giga Drain right here and get a lot of damage off. It does 50, so that shows that he's a more physically defensive one, and he does go for the U-turn. Had he got the rocks up there, I could have just killed this thing. He's going to go out into his Zygarde here, which can just one-shot me with a Banded Thousand Arrows or EQ at this point, so I'm like, nah, bruh, nah. I'm going to go into my Suicune here. Suicune's not that useful, but it's really nice to just pivot into things, as he does go right for the EQ. And now I did think that he was going to just want to go into his Tapu Fini me, knowing that I could have Ice Beam and knock out a pretty big threat to my team, or just go for the Scald and get big damage off on him, though I can't burn him under Mystery Terrain. But he's just going to stay in an EQ again, so that's a pretty good aggressive play, as I am going to go for the Roar. If he wanted to Tapu Fini there, it would have been taking that nice damage, but I am instead going to Roar him out into the Fini, which is really annoying for me because I didn't want to have my hazards removed, and then I try and rest because I forgot what Misty Terrain did, because I goofed up, and so that was really stupid. I'm gonna go for the Scald right here because I don't want him doubling around or anything. He does go into his Volcarona, and that Scald damage tells me that he's just like straight up offensive. He's not bulky or anything, which is good to know because that actually puts him in range of my choice Scarf Terrakions close combat, which is kind of cool. And he's not lefty, so I don't know if he's a Z-move or a berry or what, but he's definitely not like citrus berry, and he's not lefties, so that's cool. And I'm just gonna click Scald again, because if he stays in, he can't knock me out with a Giga Drain because I'm partially specially defensive, and I can, even if I don't knock him out, I can get a lot of damage off and then just kind of nullify this thing as a threat. And I would trade Suicune for Volcarona any day of the week. So I'm just gonna Scald again, as he's going to go into his dog, and that's really nice for me because I just get a lot of damage off on it. Nice 38%, so that shows that he's also just kind of max speed, max attack. And I'm gonna click Scald once again. Like, I know the rest play would have been nice, but I knew that he had this Tapu Fini, and he was not going to want me to get my Suicune back to full health because it does wall a fair bit of his team. So I'm just gonna Scald. I probably should have doubled right out into my Roserade here because he is going to get the light screen up, and that's really bad because he has light screen. That means that he can set up more freely with his Volcarona, and also I did have an inkling that he was going to be a Subcombine Raikou, which is pretty bad for me. I'm gonna have to get up a Spike. Maybe not my best play, but that Spike just helps me knock things out and chip things away because he can't really defog that well against my team since it's weak. He does go for the substitute, and I'm like, well, my only play here is to really just Giga Drain because I have to make sure this thing can be dealt with. Excuse me. So I can't 2-hit KO his sub here, which, unless he was like really bulky, which would mean then that he can't hit my team as hard. So I can break his substitute with a second Giga Drain, as I know he's just going to go for the Combine here. So that's very spooky. Just T-Bolt HP Ice destroys my team. It really does. So now what I'm going to do is go out into my Jirachi because I know it can take a hit, and I should be able to break his sub with my investment. I should be able to break his sub with Fire Punch and U-turn. And he does go right for the sub here, which I knew he was going to do that. And basically my play here is I need to keep this Raikou under 75% so that I can revenge kill it with Terrakion. So I'm totally fine with letting my Rachi die as long as this thing is at below 75% and not behind his sub. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Fire Punch right here to break the sub. As he goes for the T-Bolt, it does a lot. And I'm just going to break it. I get a crit, it doesn't matter because I'm max attack. And now I'm just going to click U-turn on the off chance he goes for the substitute, because that's going to give me a lot of momentum as he does go for that sub, and I'm going to be able to break his thing once again with U-turn. And because he's at 50%, I can revenge with Tarak, and because his 2 resista fighting are so low at this point, well, his 3 resista fighting are really low at this point, his whole team is just going to get bopped by Terrakion, so that's really nice for me. He's going to opt to sack off his Gliscor, which makes sense because it wasn't Poison Heal. But now he can go to his Fini. If I was a real baller here, I would have just double close combated and gotten rid of this stupid Tapu Fini. I'm going to go into my Torkoal right here as he's going to just go for the defog. So close combating there would not have... he still would have been able to get rid of hazards. However, I possibly could have just swept with Terrakion at that point, though after a few defense drops, a Banded E-Speed probably could knock me out, but Volcarona is in range of a close combat based on what I think his spread is, unless he's Chapeltar, which is very possible, but I think he's going to be Scarf because I have a Gengar on my team. Did I mention that? Yeah, I traded, or I dropped Jolteon for Gengar. I think I mentioned that last week. I think it's either going to be Chople or Scarf, because like my Gengar absolutely fucks his team in the ass. He doesn't have a switch into it, which is really cool. But Tapu Fini, what am I saying? So I could have potentially just clean swept with Terrakion there, but and could have gotten 6-0, which would have been wild, but this was my safer play, because I could have like gotten burnt with my flame body or something like that. But I'm just going to be able to fire off a solar beam right here, and because I know he was already unnerved, I could freely fire off the thing, and it does a shit ton. I actually didn't calc what this did, but I figured he was more offensive. It's definitely not a bulky T-Tar. If he was bulky, he would have had Sandstream anyways, in my opinion. He's going to miss an edge as I go into Crook. That it didn't matter. It wouldn't have done any damage at all because I'm a bulky Crook and he was at -1. And I'm going to go for the bulk up as he goes for the superpower, so he's surprisingly not choiced, so that makes me think he's probably Choppleberry. So he can like pursuit trap my Gengar. I'm gonna bulk up again. Superpower is doing actual dick piss damage at this point, and at this point, what I need to do to, if I want a 6-0, then I need my Crocodile at max HP so that I can take a Bug Buzz from his Volcarona, because at max health I can't actually live a Bug Buzz if he does have it, though I don't know if he does. Given the plays that follow, but I completely forgot that the fucking Misty terrain's still here, and I'm gonna go for rest again. So it really doesn't matter, given that it just didn't do damage. Interestingly though, that the superpower that wasn't at minus, or the superpower before did 20 and this one did 19, so it was doing so little damage. It was only dropping by like 1%. It doesn't really matter how much health my Crook is on, because I'm still above range of like an Aura Sphere from this Raikou probably, and I had to be at full health to take a hit from his Volcarona. So even though it's a really stupid play, it's not going to really cost me all that much, because Lefties is going to take me above range of the thing, and he is going to go into it, so that makes me believe he's not Bug Buzz, potentially, looking back on it, which is kind of weird because Bug Buzz just shredded my team, but I'll take it. I go for the Power Trip and just knock out the thing. I tank the Signal Beam. It didn't get close to killing me. Crook is a monster. And I don't believe that Giga Drain would have killed my Crocodile, given that it did like 60% to my Terrakion, which is not bulky at all. So now he can come in and revenge me, and I could try and like save a 6-0, but that's not very smart, especially since my whole team's getting to it KO'd by the dog at this point. So what I'm going to do here is go into my Suicune. Now, the play probably should have been to double out into his Roserade, to double out into my Roserade to prevent him from getting up a light screen. But I'm going to opt to Scald in case he was getting finicky, because he knew because I did pull some doubles early on. I didn't want him to catch me, because I do kind of want the Roserade, and I can't just really go into Torkoal, as he does go for the Madness. I did expect him to have it, so it's no surprise. But now he's going to be able to get the light screen, but the light screen doesn't really help him in this particular matchup. Like, he can't set up with his Volcarona because I do have Rock Slide on my Torkoal, which is definitely going to be able to knock it out from full, unless he's Charty Berry. But he's going to go into his thing, and I'm just going to go for the Earthquake. If you heard my dog, I'm sorry. But here, I'm going to make a silly play. So I was madly running calcs, and I was like, okay, will Scald plus Rock Slide do enough to knock out this thing? Because I really didn't want to lock myself into Stone Edge and try and clean sweep, because if I miss the Stone Edge with my Tarak, then I just lost the game, because Jirachi and Roserade are not beating either of his remaining 2 mons. So if I was not dumb and I just ran all of my calcs like a good kid, I would have seen that Close Combat just kills both these mons, which are both at 44%. So this was a really dumb play here. I'm going to go for the Scald, and he goes for the EQ, and it's going to do 9. It does 9. It did fucking 9%. So that was really silly of me. I could have gotten a 4-0 this way, because I know he's not bulky Volcarona, so if I just went hard into Tarak, I would have had a 4-0 victory, so that was really stupid. But now I'm just going to go for the Close Combat, and at that point I knew that Rock Slide couldn't knock him out, so I was like, fuck it, Close Combat, hope that he's not surprisingly bulky for some reason, and I just go for the CC and knock out his Volk. And that's going to be the game. So that was a weird one. It was a really weird one on both behalves. Seb kind of messed up his build, and I messed up my plays. Aside from me trying to rest in Misty Terrain twice, I did feel like I played pretty well in this game, especially at the beginning where I was doubling around his bulky mons pretty decently. And my goodness, my dog is just going crazy with the barking. But this was a nice match. Can I even say that? I don't think I can. It was an interesting match. Let's give it that. It was definitely an interesting one to watch, because you were probably wondering, why the fuck is Murk going for a rest when there's Misty train up twice? Also, he was train extender Tapu Fini, which is really cool. So one, he probably couldn't get burn or T-waved by my dudes, and also because I couldn't rest up, and I brought 2 rest mons. So definitely a very interesting match, one of the more interesting ones I've had this season or ever. But we got the W. Even if it wasn't pretty, we got nice 3 points and a victory, so that puts us up to 3-2, and I believe 3rd place in the division, which I'll take. And next week we're going to be playing against Blake or Moxie and Fernape, and if we're being real, I'm going to toss him on his neck. So you heard it here, folks. Also, along with that trade I mentioned earlier with Roserade, so I actually made 2 trades this week, one of which was trading my newly acquired Doublade over to Blake. Even though I'm playing him next week, he offered to trade me Klefki for Doublade, and it's like, sure, that's an upgrade for me, because like Doublade's cool, but I don't exactly need it on this team, and having that reliable spiker with Klefki is nice. And also I traded Roserade to Zazo in trade for Greninja. It's Torrent Ninja, but I really like how Greninja does on my team, and it gives me some cool stuff and a really nice speed stat, so my team's a little faster now, which I like, because Roserade's speed stat really did hold it back, especially on this team, I felt like. So that just gives me a nice mon. I'll see if I can trade another mon in week 7, or before week 7, so that I can just keep up the trend of trading a mon every week, because that's pretty much what I've done all season. Anyways, that's enough rambling. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to go check out Seb. He makes really good content. I thoroughly enjoy watching it. He's a fun guy and a nice kid, even though he's older than me. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys later. Bye.